My friends, welcome to episode 11 of Vibe with Venerables. 1 hour of live Dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a respected Venerable. I'm Ming, co-founder of Buddhism-dot-net and your host. So we continue to have our Summer of Love with the monastics from Savasti Abbey. And today's episode is very special to me because our teacher today is my dear friend, Venerable Thubten Damcho. Like myself, Venerable Damcho grew up in Singapore. And being Singaporean, she met the Dharma in, of course, America, when she was studying in Princeton. So on her return to Singapore, she took refuge at the Pokasi monastery and served as a Sunday school teacher. And then in 2012, she served as Venerable Chodron's attendant in Indonesia. And that had a deep impact on her, and it changed everything. So after that, she moved to the Abbey to train as an Anagarika in December of 2012. And then she received her full ordination in 2016. Today, Venerable Damcho serves as the assistant to Venerable Chodron. She teaches meditation. She gives Dharma talks. And she's very cool. She translates both Chinese and Tibetan scriptures into English. And best of all, she drives a tractor and a snow blower. And Venerable Damcho is also a star. Her interview with us is the biggest hit on Buddhism.net, on the Buddhism.net YouTube channel, with 40,000 views. Right? Everybody loves her. So today, Venerable Damcho is here to talk about love. Continuing the topic of what's love got to do with it. And she will answer the question, is love a second-hand emotion? And then if I have time later, I will also ask her, who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? So Venerable will speak for roughly 30 minutes and then answer your questions live. And as a reminder, this session will be recorded and uploaded onto YouTube later. And for those of us joining on YouTube, I'd like to invite you, if you want to turn on your camera so that Venerable can see your lovely faces. And with that, Venerable, can we invite you to start with an opening prayer and a minute of meditation?
Okay, thank you so much, Meng, for that kind of overwhelming introduction. But okay.
That
Anyhow,
was
let's
hair down,
take
by
it.
the way. It was worse
Oh man.
before.
All right, enough. Hearing about yourself, always a bit terrifying. So, let's take a couple of minutes just to bring our bodies and minds into the space that we're in. And we'll do that just by settling in and paying attention to our breath. I'll lead a short visualization and we'll take refuge, reflect on the four immeasurables. I'll set a motivation and then we'll get into the talk. Yeah, so that's what we're going to get up to for the next 30 minutes or so. Okay, so wherever you are, just take a moment to check in with your posture, making sure that your spine is straight. I'm guessing many people are in chairs, so just take a moment to feel what it's like to have contact with your feet on the ground and your sit bones on the seat that you're in. You can lower your eyes so that you don't have to look at anything specific that might be distracting. And just take this moment to bring the mind inwards. And for the next hour or so, we're going to set aside all our plans for the future or rumination, worries about the past, so that we can focus on just being together to explore this topic of what it means to cultivate love. So to help prepare our minds for that, let's take a moment just to focus on a neutral object like the breath. So we can just pay attention to the rise and fall of the belly or the in and out sensation of air at your nostrils. And so sitting here with our bodies now fairly relaxed in a peaceful, safe environment, let's try and imagine what it might be like to have a mind that is imbued only with good qualities like love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, wisdom, all the skillful means that are needed to benefit others. And such a mind is surely free of attachment, anger, and ignorance. So it can, radiate these good qualities out limitlessly, unobstructedly. And maybe it might be quite abstract to try and visualize or imagine of such a mind. So it can help to visualize a physical embodiment of all these good qualities. If you're not Buddhist, you might just visualize a ball of light in front of you, a very brilliant, beautiful ball of light embodying all these good qualities that you aspire to. Or if you're familiar with Shakyamuni Buddha, that's an image that resonates with you, a being that resonates with you, you can imagine the Buddha in the space in front, in the form of a monastic seated on a beautiful open lotus, on a throne supported by lions. Surrounding us, we bring to mind all mother sentient beings in human form. And we can imagine leading them to take refuge in these marvelous good qualities that we're visualizing in the physical form in front of us, to cultivate our good qualities to their fullest extent so that we may be of the greatest benefit to all beings. So to help us set our aspiration in that direction, we'll recite the refuge and bodhicitta prayer followed by the 4 immeasurables, and you'll find the text in the chat so you can just follow along. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. So still holding the mind in this meditative space, let's take a moment to reflect on these 4 immeasurables. Especially if you've attended the last few sessions, we've heard about what it means to wish others to have happiness and its causes. So see if you can bring that to mind. And so just to again set a motivation for this session, this being Father's Day here in the US, I thought we might bring to mind our father of this life, or if that's perhaps a difficult figure for you, a fatherly caregiver, a kind relative, perhaps an uncle, your grandfather, a teacher, someone who played that role in your life. And just take a moment to appreciate their kindness. Whether they help to contribute to our physical life, this life, or taught us important lessons, imbued values in us that we try and live by still. We would not be alive and flourishing without having experienced their kindness. And so generating a wish for all our kind fathers, whether in this life or past lives, to have happiness and its causes, we can use this time to deepen our understanding of what it means to cultivate this love, this immeasurable wish for all beings without exception to have happiness and its causes. And to see that as a very powerful way of paying forward or even paying back, I suppose, to people who have been kind to us, but especially paying forward all the kindness that we've received. So with that in mind, we can engage in this sharing today.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So, True Confessions, I worked with our PR lead, Venerable Chini, who is on this call too, to come up with the title of this series, is What's Love Got to Do With It? Partly because, not because I'm a huge fan of Tina Turner, but it's a catchy song. And I will say it reminds me always of the movie about her life. I don't know if everybody, I don't know if people have seen it. It played way back in the day on Singapore's English language TV channel, Channel 5, yes. And it was such a sad movie as I recall it. You know, this song always reminds me of the difficulties she went through in her life, right? She was so incredibly famous. She had this amazing voice and talent, and also abusive husband, as I recall it, right? Who was a fellow performer, but who also directed her entire musical career. And just the pain of betrayal and hurt, right? Of someone who you love so much or who you're expecting so much from, who shapes your entire life and they harm you, and how painful that was. And also how she found kind of refuge in Buddhist practice. I believe, at least what I recall of the movie, finding some spiritual practice was what helped her to regain her self-confidence and come out of that very difficult situation. So, when I think of the lyrics of that song, I just think of that whole story and it just, she's singing it from a place of like deep, painful experience. What's love got to do with it? There's a lot of anger there, actually. Got to do with it, got to do it. What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? So we've heard for 2 weeks now that love, according to the Buddhist definition, is not a second-hand emotion. It is the wish for others to be happy and have the causes of happiness, well, yourself as well. It's simply the wish for happiness and the causes of happiness. And we've explored, I think Venerable Chodron, Venerable Damcho have looked deeply into, what exactly is this definition of happiness and what are its causes? Because, to even generate this love, you have to get into that definition. So that's in itself a very profound exploration. So Venerable Damcho talked a bit about how virtue is the primary cause for happiness. Whether you believe that or not, that's definitely something to keep reflecting on. But what I wanted to look at today, which, is something Venerable Chodron pointed to in her first talk, is the difference between love and attachment. And I want to posit that attachment is the second-hand emotion. It's not just second-hand, it causes a lot of problems for us. It's like a F-grade delusion, really. But it's so often just completely mixed up with love. And when we can't tell the difference, it causes us so many problems. And once attachment is out of control, it often leads to another big problem, another big delusion and defilement, as we call it, anger. Yeah, so that's what that next line in the song is about, right? Attachment is a secondhand emotion. And when you're disappointed, then you feel, who needs a heart when a heart can be broken, right? You're just so angry and betrayed. And the problem is we think this is coming from outside of us. We think it's a person who's doing this to us. We think it's some kind of, the problem is the object. Yeah, but here we're looking at how we're relating to these objects. And here the issue is that we have an unrealistic expectation or a complete misconception of how an object exists, such that attachment arises. And then when that attachment is disappointed, then anger arises, or whatever gets in the way of our attachment. So what I find very helpful about the Buddhist teachings is always coming back to these definitions of mental states, because I can't see my mind. I don't know about you. So it's very difficult to know when a certain mental state is up and what is virtuous and non-virtuous. Yeah. Often we talk about how sometimes the body can be a good clue, right? If the mind is disturbed, very often there will be signs in the body of this disturbance. Right. So I would think, so that's a good question to check up within yourself. How do you know when love is present in the mind? How does that feel, both physically and mentally? And how does it feel, when you're simply, say, wishing for yourself and others to have happiness and its causes, right? How does that feel? Versus when attachment is up. Yeah. So before we get into the technical definition of it, I would say when, I'm craving or wanting something very badly, often there's a lot of agitation physically. Yeah. There's a lot of adrenaline or energy. There's a lot of what we call inappropriate attention that's just completely focused on that object. Yeah. My energy is not kind of peaceful, equanimous, but yeah, there's a lot of agitation. Yeah. And sometimes in our community, we talk about a zingy feeling. There's like this zing, some excitement and disturbance. So what I find helpful about the technical definition of attachment is that it is a state of mind that is projecting good qualities onto an object, right? That may not be there. Or if those good qualities are there, you are exaggerating them. Yeah. And on the basis of this projection or exaggeration, then the mind clings to that object. It's so good. It's perfect, right? It's unchanged. Wow, it's the best thing ever. And you just want to have it. You want to hang on to it, and you just never want to be separated from it. Okay, so it's on the basis of this kind of exaggeration. And then it leads you to, want to hang on to it. Yeah, now you think, all my happiness depends on this object, on being with this person or being in this situation. Yeah, but because it's unrealistic, again, it's based on a projection or an exaggeration, there can be no good outcome. Yeah. So this image, I think it comes from one of Venerable Chodron's books. I forget if it's Open Heart, Clear Mind or Working with Anger, where she talks about how attachment is like bubble gum, right? You're blowing this huge bubble, and at some point it's just gonna burst. And the worst part about it bursting is that it comes right back at you and it just sticks on your face and your head and your hair. I mean, one of the benefits of not having hair, but we don't chew gum. So, it comes right back at you and you're in this very sticky situation trying to disentangle yourself from all this gum. Yeah, so that's really how I think of how attachment functions. There's the exaggeration and then kind of the blowback. Yeah. But I don't know about you, okay, but it's very difficult for me to identify attachment in my experience. Everything about the world, everything in my social conditioning makes me think it's love, or it's like totally normal. It's just part of how I live my life, and it's just all mixed up. So often I can only tell, oops, I've exaggerated something, I've had unrealistic expectations when it blows up in my face. Yeah, then it's really painful, right? Then it's who needs a heart? Yeah, when a heart can be broken, I loved you so much and, you disappointed me, it failed, we broke up, the relationship ended, whatever it is. You changed, I changed, yeah? And then you're left with this mess trying to clean it up. So it's very helpful to learn how to identify attachment in our experience and to distinguish it from genuine love. Yeah, because once the two get mixed up, then our practice is not gonna get very far. You're basically putting your attention still on the same old defilement that's causing a lot of problems. Yeah. So I thought I would read a little bit from a chapter in Venerable Chodron's book, Open Heart, Clear Mind. It's a really excellent introduction to the Buddhist teachings. And chapter 3 is titled Love versus Attachment, Distinguishing Genuine Care from Unrealistic Projections. And well and truly, this is a chapter I wish I had read as a much younger person, like maybe before I entered my first romantic relationship, right? Reading it now, I'm like, oh, duh, it's so clear what the problem is. Yeah, but I don't know. I had to learn the hard way, as they say. So I'll just read snippets from it and just share some thoughts. Yeah. So in this chapter, she says, generally, we're attracted to people either because they have qualities we value or because they help us. Yeah. If we observe our own thought processes, we'll notice that we look for specific qualities in others. Some of these are qualities we find attractive. Others are those our parents or society value. We examine someone's looks, education, financial status, social status. If we value artistic or musical ability, we look for that. If athletic ability is important to us, we check for that. Thus, each of us has different qualities we look for and different standards for evaluating them. Do you have that? Yeah? I'm not the only one? Yeah? Okay. Right? And that's a good thing to just acknowledge and check up on, right? Like, what is our internal checklist and where did these qualities come from, right? Are they actually beneficial qualities, or like she says here, they're just whatever we ourselves value and find attractive, or it's what our parents or society have passed down to us, right? And they're all external attributes. I think in her first talk, Venerable went on, right, about how, these are just, part of our social conditioning. And when I look back, I will say it's so embarrassing. I don't know about you, but in high school, I think the primary quality I judged people by was their taste in music. I'm sure that's like of life-shattering importance, right? It's like, if you like this kind of music, we can talk to each other. But if you like this other kind of music, man, you are just not worth my time. I'm not going to just tell you what genres anyway. And that was what drove a lot of my interest in relating to people. Do you like the same music? And no, we cannot talk to these people who like schmaltzy, middle of, alt rock music. No. Yeah. Does that actually say anything about someone's character? Does that, help us build a valuable friendship? No. Yeah, but that's what my life revolved around. Yeah, and then extend that to what kind of books someone reads or the kind of movies they watch. That's how I judge a lot of people. So that might be something worth checking up on. What is your internal checklist? Yeah, because as a result of this internal checklist, Venerable Chodron goes on to say, if they have those qualities, then we value them. We think they're good people who are worthwhile. It appears to us as if they are great people in and of themselves, unrelated to our evaluation of them. But in fact, because we have certain preconceptions about which qualities are desirable and which aren't, we are the ones who create the worthwhile people. So that's a really big, thing to realize, I think, that people are not, quote, worthwhile from their side. Yeah, she's talking about a whole process of us projecting these qualities and then imagining that they come from the side of these people objectively, and then on that basis thinking whether or not they're worthwhile. Yeah. So, with an example like high school and how we judge our friends, it seems more kind of innocuous. But when it comes to, say, discriminating against people, I mean, this word worthwhile, I think, is so, loaded these days, or something to really look at. Yeah, maybe this is very much alive for me because we watched this documentary recently about the conflict in the Middle East, and how your whole identity formation is based on your nationality and how you define the other side, right? Oh, they come from this country, so they necessarily must be an enemy. They're out to harm us. Yeah, I don't even know them. I have never met a single person from that country, but they must be out to harm. They're oppressing us, or they are, trying to take over our land in some way. They're not worthwhile. Yeah, I have to, my whole life identity is about fighting back or, maintaining the boundary, whatever that might be. And you think it's coming from that side. And so it's happening both ways, right? You can project the good qualities and think it's coming from that person and you just get obsessed with them, or you have the opposite. It's the same kind of process. And so that's really something to look at, who we decide, who we create as worthwhile people. And, at the same time, how we reflect on ourselves, right? So once we judge people as worthwhile, according to how they relate to us, right? They help us, they praise us, they make us feel secure, they listen to what we say and care for us when we're sick or depressed, then we consider them good people. Yeah. So Venerable Chodron goes on to say, this is very biased because we judge them only in terms of how they relate to us, as if we were the most important person in the world. So generally we think that if people help us, they're good people, while if they harm us, they're bad people, right? If they encourage us, they're wonderful. If they encourage our competitor, they're obnoxious. And it isn't the quality of encouragement that we value, but simply the fact that it is aimed at us. And if people criticize us, if they're mistaken, they're definitely mistaken or inconsiderate. If they criticize someone we don't like, they're wise. But we don't object to the trait of criticizing. The whole issue, it's centered around this one, right? Me, I. Yeah. So that's, I think, the biggest clue when we are falling into attachment. We're creating this whole world based on our own criteria. We're judging people based on very biased criteria, relating to them in that way, and it's coming only from our point of view. And so that's completely different from the kind of love that we're trying to cultivate. I think you've heard in previous weeks too, that one of the prerequisites for cultivating love actually is equanimity. Yeah, to begin by just examining, who do I call my friends? Who do I call enemies? And who do I call strangers? How do I apply these labels? Yeah, and again, it always comes back to how they relate to me, right? So we start by doing meditations to level that playing field, just questioning, why, on what basis do I put people in these different boxes? How do I relax these these hard and fast categories and definitions? How do I release them? And on that basis, when I see that, if I can see in my heart that every being wants to be happy and not suffer, then it becomes a lot easier to start generating this wish, may they be happy, may they have the causes of happiness, one by one by one by one. Yeah, and to do that repeatedly. So I see I'm a bit running out of time, but I want to jump to, this whole chapter is just rich with, lots of material to reflect on. But she talks about too, how attachment comes from a place of emotional insecurity. We keep thinking that happiness is outside. It's in that person. It's in what they can give me, right? It's somewhere outside, and I have to be with that person or in that situation. It's not something I can generate inside on my own. In that way, we really make our lives very miserable. The conditions are not just on the object, on that person. We're setting those conditions for ourselves, right? I can only be loved if, I can only be happy if, and whatever those conditions might be, right? And so it's actually a very constricting, and we're imprisoning ourselves, really, when we look at ourselves and others and the world in this way. Yeah. And so here, Venerable Chodron points out, right, emotional insecurity makes us continuously seek something from others, and our kindness to them becomes contaminated by the ulterior motive of wanting to receive something in return. Yeah. However, when we recognize how much we've already received from others, then we just want to repay their kindness, and our hearts are filled with love. So love emphasizes giving rather than receiving. Not being bound by our cravings and expectations from others, will be open, kind, and sharing, yet will maintain our own sense of integrity and autonomy. And she goes on to say, attachment wants others to be happy so much that sometimes we pressure them into doing what we think will make them happy. And we give others no choice, for we feel we know what's best for them. We don't allow them to do what makes them happy, nor do we accept that sometimes they'll be unhappy. right? Such difficulties often arise in family relationships. But love intensely wishes others to be happy. However, it's tempered with wisdom, recognizing that whether or not others are happy also depends on them. We can guide them, but our egos won't be involved when we do. Respecting them will give them the choice of whether or not to accept our advice and our help. And interestingly, when we don't pressure others to follow our advice, they're more open to listening to it. So I just wanted to offer that up, right? Just on a very practical level, right? It helps us to see how when we're attached, actually, we aren't able to genuinely wish the other party to be happy. We're actually wanting to make ourselves happy. Like she said, this whole misconception, you're thinking, if I have you in my life, I will be happy, or I'm kind to you so that you will be nice to me, right? All the conditions are it's all strings attached, pun intended, as Chinming would say, right? But with love, it's tempered by wisdom, and it's with a much more realistic perspective on what this happiness looks like. It's not something we can push someone into. We can't force them to be happy. We can't make someone else happy. We can offer guidance, but if they don't listen to us, we're not going to be totally upset, right? Our egos are not involved. We do our best to offer what someone is hopefully open to, and if they're not open, that's fair enough. It's a free world. They can choose to listen to us or not, because we genuinely want them to have that autonomy, to, on their own terms, look into what values they want to live by and how to live those out in their lives. And if they make mistakes, we're not going to punish them. We're not going to say, look, you didn't listen to me from the start, so, too bad, right? But with the genuine attitude of wanting someone to be happy and to have its causes, if they've made a mistake, our hearts remain open and say, okay, let's figure out how we can heal from this, or work together to find, a solution that works better for everyone involved. So those are just some preliminary thoughts I have on the difference between love and attachment, right? Talking about how to distinguish it, maybe just at the physical level in terms of definitions, looking at how we see other beings when we have either mind state going on in for us, and how that affects our relationships. So those are some ways we can start to check up, am I relating to this person or situation with a loving attitude, or is there attachment running the show? And when attachment is what's alive, what can I do about it in that case? So I wanted to just pause here to make some space for questions if people have them.
Thank you, Venerable. Okay, now we are transitioning to question and answers. And those of you who have questions, just use the hand raising function on Zoom, and then I will point you out and ask you to unmute yourself. Okay, we have a raised hand from Jiwon. Please unmute yourself.
First, thank you so much, for your inspiring talk. You mentioned about attachment, and the cause of the attachment is insecurity, and I can totally relate to that because I feel often lots of attachment, and it's coming from my own insecurity. And also, it was very inspiring to hear that, how I'm seeing the other person is totally if that person do something good to me or not. So thank you so much for sharing that wisdom. And I was wondering about this point. So basically, all the Buddhist practices, they will lead us to no attachment. But still, I'm curious, if among numerous Buddhist practices, is there any more specific practice that is directly related to reduce our attachment or insecurity, like a medicine that we can take immediately, kind of thing?
Yeah, thank you for that question. But first off, I wonder if insecurity is the cause of attachment. I don't know if that's what you said. Yeah, that's something to look at too. We would always say ignorance is the cause. Yeah, just the pure misconception that some external object is going to bring everlasting happiness, or that the happiness is coming from that object, right? Just kind of misunderstanding of how ourselves and others exist. Yeah, that's at the root of attachment arising. And then with the attachment, then tremendous amount of emotional insecurity, right? Because everything that makes you happy is something that you need to get outside of you. Yeah, it's not something you can grow inside. So I think just briefly, I would turn to two major antidotes with attachment. The most powerful one being reflecting on impermanence. Yeah, and the faults of the object. Yeah, so you can start by just checking up on your unrealistic expectations. Yeah, is everlasting, so that if there's time, I'll guide the meditation, but, often we have an analytic meditation that we do in our tradition where you bring up these objects of attachment in your mind. Might be a person, might be a car, might be a house, whatever it might be, your dream job, and just sit with it and ask yourself, is this really going to bring everlasting happiness? Does this object have the qualities I think it does? And in the meditation to analyze that. Yeah. Is it permanent as I think it is, right? If I get this, I will always be happy. Or is it changing moment by moment, constantly changing? And then on the basis of that impermanence, right, changing moment by moment by moment, then it's not going to be satisfactory. Yeah, so then you can look, what problems will I have when I get this object, right? Is there really a perfect partner, or will the partner come with their own set of emotional ups and downs and everything else? Venerable Chodron likes to say, you have a car, then you have car hell, right? All the problems that come with having a car. So reflect on that, right? To help to reduce the unrealistic expectation. And so you're seeing the object in a more realistic way. It's changing moment by moment. And what are all the problems that come with it? That doesn't mean, you're like, no, I never want this, but it just helps you relate to it in a realistic way. Yeah. Like, great. Okay, I have this promotion. But it comes with working 4 extra hours a day. Like, do I really want that in my life? Yeah, how do I balance this new development in my life? Right. So impermanence, looking at the problems that the object brings. Another one I like to play with is imagining that I get everything I want. And like exaggerate it, go right ahead. You are, I think Venerable Chodron calls it, you are queen for a day. You get absolutely everything you want, or king for a day. And then you have to ask yourself, are you going to be everlastingly happy? And then what? Yeah. Or again, does it again come with all these problems? So these are things you can explore in your meditation. Like, it's a safe rehearsal space. I might think of it that way. But for me too, for emotional insecurity, I really like to reflect on what we might call Buddha nature. But just simply the question, what do I base my sense of confidence upon? And is it a realistic basis? If I base my confidence on how I look, well, that's going to disappear very quickly, as I age, right? Is it based on my pay grade? Is it based on my educational status? Is it based on my intelligence? Are any of these worthwhile or reliable bases for confidence or a sense of self-worth? And if they are not, then what are? Yeah. So I'm not going to give you the answer to that. It's just a good question to sit with. What is a reliable basis for self-confidence, or how to relate to this self? So you might sit with that and see if that helps.
Thank you. But actually, I think I'm always kind of thinking, my head is always busy. But what's the difference between the analytical meditation and my usual thinking? I just don't want to fall into the trap of mental proliferation.
That's a great question. Yeah. So with analytical meditation, we do it on very specific topics, and they are outlines for what we're meditating on. And so our mental proliferation might be virtuous or non-virtuous, but often it's spinning around an object without control, right? Venerable Chodron has written an excellent book called Guided Buddhist Meditations. So there are specific topics that are from Dharma teachings, and we're reflecting on them to come toward a realistic or beneficial conclusion. That's the difference. The outcome of the analytic meditation is not that you feel depressed or worse about yourself or very anxious about the world. Then you're like, okay, that's rumination, right? The analytic meditation is like, oh, you come out like, oh yeah, why am I so attached to getting this new car, like, what's it gonna do for me? I really need to think about this, you know? Yeah, and it kind of tames the disturbing emotion, yeah, or helps us to cultivate a beneficial perspective on a situation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hello,
Bhakti, please unmute
Bharti.
yourself.
Yes. Hello, Venerable Damcho. How are you doing today?
Good, so good to see you.
So good to see you too. My question was that just like Buddha and his wife were like soulmates or partners since many lives. So, do I really believe in the concept of soulmates that people can be in love for many, many lives since I believe in rebirth? Or is this also, an exaggerated concept? What is your opinion on that?
Well, we would say we have a karmic connection with people, right? That can go on for many lifetimes. But you don't know necessarily if you had necessarily a like a loving relationship in the past and the present. Yeah, I mean, there's stories from scripture, the most famous one being of the Venerable Shariputra, I think, right? Who comes across a family, and because he has clairvoyance, he can see the relationships they had in a past life, and it's like really shocking to him because the wife has on her lap a baby who used to be the person she had an affair with. I think that the husband killed, right? And he gets reborn as her child. And the husband is carrying the baby, but he used to hate that, who was the enemy in the past life, right? And, and the father is reborn as a fish. And yeah, basically here, the complexities of our past relationships are, it's complex. Yeah, it's not like a direct one-to-one mapping where every lifetime you're the same mind stream, reconnecting with the same type of physical form and meeting again and falling in love the same way again and again and again. Yeah. I mean, I do think people do make aspirations for that. But whether or not we don't have any control over how rebirth occurs. Yeah. So, you were my mother in the past, right? Or you were my enemy in the past. Yeah. And we're meeting again due to having these karmic connections. I do say, I mean, you might not want to hear this, but I recall Venerable saying, often she's talking to monastics, let's remember this, where she talks about, I think, someone saying, you pray to be reborn again with this person and in the future life, but you might be reborn as like animals together, or you were pigs together in the past life. No offense to pigs, but you were cockroaches together for many lifetimes. Like, do we really want to keep having that kind of connection? Is that what it really means to be quote quote soulmates, right? I do think was there a couple that had the same question for the Buddha? Yeah, in a sutra, Venerable Chini, do you remember this story? What I recall was that they made aspirations to support each other in their practice. And then the Buddha kind of taught them what that meant. Yeah. So I think very often too, you'll see couples go forth. One becomes a monk, one becomes a nun, right? So those are other ways that I know that's not what any of you want to hear on this call. But yeah, so basically it's complex. Yeah. And it's not like a direct kind of mapping. And surely we can expand our love to all the beings that we have been connected with in so many ways from countless past lifetimes, not just this one specific being in this life, who we don't know. In the past, they were our enemy. Just happens that in this life, they are our spouse, who sometimes is like your enemy, no? And yeah, and those are the complexities of those relationships. Yeah. Is the best thing to wish for two of you to like meet again and always get married? I don't know. That's something to think about.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Lynn.
Hi, thank you so much for having this. We appreciate it. I had a question about once you're in relationship, is there some suggestions or readings or books that you would recommend when you're trying to work through attachment in your relationship?
Well, I think just this chapter helped me a lot from Open Heart, Clear Mind. Oh, Teachings on Love from Thich Nhat Hanh. That's wonderful. You're both reading it. You're both practicing it. Great. I would personally, what worked for me was always coming back to this chapter on love and attachment from Venerable Chodron's Open Heart, Clear Mind. I mean, the content seems so simple, but I felt like every sentence had something for me to unpack. And maybe for me, the object I always work with is my parents. Yeah, coming from a Chinese culture, it's like, you owe your whole life to them, you got to pay everything back, and you can't criticize them, and and how could you become a nun? So, working with that, and what to do when they die, right? How to actually relate to them and have a loving relationship. They criticize my life choices. Yeah. So that's the living relationship that I work with, distinguishing what is attachment and what is love. And I've found personally that when I've learned to tell the difference and apply the antidotes to attachment, that helps me to cultivate genuine love toward the other party. Because I'm not thinking about what I can get from them. I'm thinking about what would bring about their happiness, and whether or not I have the capacity to support that. And if I don't, how do I make aspirations to do that or create the causes for that? Does that help a little?
No,
I don't know if
it's
other
not-
people have suggestions. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not one necessarily all one or all the other. I mean, it can be a milieu of love and attachment with different aspects.
Absolutely. That's why we have to meditate, because the mind is changing constantly, right? There are moments where loving towards someone else, and then the next moment, attachment arises, and I'm like, how could you say that? You're supposed to support me, and I'll right? So it's a constant evolving process. Yeah. And we learn our own buttons, where the attachment is the strongest. How does it manifest in this particular relationship with this particular person? How's it coming up? Yeah. So I think we can do that in all of the relationships we have. In this chapter too, she points out how often with parent-child relationships, it can be very strong, right? Your child grows up, they change. This is like such a normal, natural process. But why are the teenage years so difficult? Right? It's like, wait, you were supposed to be 9 and cute forever. It's like, no, now you're like bad-mouthing us, you like do things that embarrass us. What the heck? Right? That's attachment. Yeah, where you fixated on this vision of a beautiful, cute child that would always remain the same. It's like, sorry, they grow up, right? And your relationship's going to change. How do you still hold that loving attitude when they drive your car and bang it into something and don't want to pay for it? Yeah. So, yeah, I hope that helps.
I find meditating on impermanence to be very beneficial.
Mm-hmm. But that's the power of ignorance, I think. It's like, it's so obvious and I forget every day. It's like impermanence, changing moment by moment. I'm changing moment by moment. People around me are changing moment by moment. They're not who I think they are. I'm not who I think I am. And the moment I get stuck, that's when all the problems come up. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's why I keep all my coins in my pocket, because change must come from within. We have a question. We have a question from Qing.
Hello. Yeah, can you hear me okay? So thank you, Venerable, for this topic, which is something that I find it also. I'm still learning, and I'm still learning to detach from being too attached. So the points that you mentioned earlier were very helpful. So I think my question now is like, okay, I used to have this very strong, I think, notion that it's good to have a soulmate in a person. Then after that, I realized my life experiences showed me that actually humans are not very stable. So I actually started to open my heart to animals. Then just now you mentioned something about what you mean about the karmic I don't know lah, okay. And of course I don't want to go too far back into whether it's the cat my lover or I killed the cat, or I don't know, okay. I don't want to know too much for my brain. So I was like, but because I've been taking care of 3 animals, yeah, 2 cats and a dog, I really, really am growing more attached to them. I love them. I care for them. And more I find that, well, my cat is becoming like a soulmate. So I'm like, okay, wait. So there's some attachment. Yeah, so, okay, I'm still practicing Buddhism. But the thing right now is, if we have to pay attention to our objects of love and attachment, what is the middle way? What is a wholesome way to okay, create causes, but when you find yourself I don't know, like grasping to maybe your pet as a soulmate, but you also know eventually it will pass. Um, how yeah. So okay, I don't know. Maybe you can
Yeah, yeah.
guide me to like, ayo, I cannot attach to anything outside of me. Then inside that, but sometimes inside it feels very scared also, because I'm not surrounded. I don't live in a monastery like yourself. You have um monks and no, you don't have monks. Yes, you have monks, right? Okay, you have monks and nuns who are aligned in the same aspiration, but I'm surrounded by lay people. They have so many distractions, and the world today is like, Instagram, quick fix. I'm like, hey, wait, how do I retreat? And then I don't know. Okay, I think that's a lot of questions. So I saw your smile. So please, how do I align myself to stay in the middle way? Now I'm relating to my pet. So let's just only talk about pets. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, huge question. But first of all, like you pointed out yourself, right? With attachment, the issue is the mental state, not necessarily the external object. So it's really about learning to identify how that state comes up for you in your own experience. Yeah, and it's not like it's happening all the time, like we mentioned just now, right? It's not like you are constantly attached to whatever object at all times, right? Even your relationship with the object is changing. Like you said, so you thought that the answer to happiness was a human being, right? Who you would love forever. And then like, oh, that doesn't work. Okay, what about a cat that I can love forever? Right? So again, the solution's still coming outside. And now you got to watch that process of attachment developing, right? Oh, I got a cat. At first, you're like, what is this creature? It's a stranger, And you watch over time, how come the mind changes its attitude? When does it become my cat? My special cat, my cutie woody, whatever, And oh yeah, now I can't live without the cat coming to wake me up in the morning. Oh, schnookums, everything. Go and reflect on that. Watch how your mind changed. And how was, that first meeting with Sid Cat different from how you relate to it now? And I think we can do that with all objects. Yeah. Like one that's very tricky is attachment to your reputation. Yeah, I can't see my reputation, but for me, moving to a monastery was a very good experience in that. But I got to leave my lay life behind. I came here, nobody knew who I was. I show up every day, I do whatever job is needed. Great. The moment I ordained here, now this is my monastery. I have something that I'm in charge of. It reflects on my capability. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's all that old stuff comes back up. Yeah. Oh, Thubten Damcho, I have a name now, right? It's in charge of this thing and it got screwed up. Rawr! Who am I working with and are they reliable? All of this old habituation comes right back up. But now I get to see it for what it is. It's not like, oh, normal working life. It's like, no, this is my attachment to my reputation. Yeah, it didn't happen in the first year, but once I am part of a thing and I make it part of my identity, then it's like this, right? And how do I then apply the same antidotes, changing moment by moment? I am not this thing I think I am here, and yeah, and so on. So I would suggest doing that with whatever. The issue is not the cat or the human, it's that process that's happening inside you, and it's happening over time. So, when you have time to be quiet and meditate, look at that. How is that playing out for you internally? And what other objects does your mind tend to get fixated on? right? Like you said, oh, my Instagram account, how many followers do I have? Is it, how does it reflect about me, right? When you first started Instagram account, you don't care, right? When did you start caring, and when did it become such a big deal? If you can identify what's happening in your mind there, that gives you a lot of clues about attachment and how to, what objects trigger it, but most importantly, applying the antidotes. Yeah. Again and again and again. It's not going to happen overnight.
Thank you. Venerable Damcho, your problem just got worse because I just call you a star. So now your reputation is even bigger.
Okay.
Okay, we have time for one last short question, and we have Jiwon, who looks remarkably like the previous Jiwon asked the first question. Okay, so Jiwon, yes, you have the last question.
Yeah, I was waiting for until the moment that there was no more questions because I wanted to clarify one thing. So I think it's probably my misunderstanding or my mental projection, but I think I heard that you said our attachment was coming from our insecurity. That's how I understood. But when you explained it to me, it seems like it was not the case. So I just wanted to clearly understand this point.
It seems to me that it's attachment that makes us insecure. Yeah, not the other way around. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, based on how we learn Buddhist philosophy, but again, this is something that we all have to go and check up and investigate, right, in our own experience, right? The root cause of the problem is this misconception of how the self and objects and others exist. Yeah, that's what we call ignorance, right? Just conceiving that there is some kind of fixed, permanent, or independent self that doesn't rely on causes and conditions, right? And that on that basis, thinking that's the most important thing, or and the center of the universe, and then everything that we perceive relates to that. Yeah. But maybe that does make us very insecure. You think?
I think it's a circular relationship.
So for example, you mentioned the attachment to the self, this misunderstanding. This attachment actually makes my mind insecure, and then this insecurity also makes me to try to grab something, causing other attachment. So it's step by step process probably.
Right, you're right. Yeah. It's like it's a negative cycle. What is it? A downward spiral.
Vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Vicious cycle. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's something for me to really look at because I think it's because when we bring in these kind of more contemporary psychological terms, right? When we talk about low self-esteem or insecurity, then it's like, how does it map with our traditional understanding of the Buddhist definition of different defilements or afflictions? Yeah. So yeah, I think Venerable Chodron will often say the self-centered thought is what feeds a lot of our insecurity. Yeah, which is also based on this ignorance that misconceives how the self exists. Yeah, she'll go right back to it's the self-centered thought that just thinks that we're either the best or the worst, and again, the whole universe just revolves around this one being, and how painful that is. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for that. Lots to think about.
Thank you, Venerable Damcho. Venerable Damcho, can you lead us in a closing dedication and bless all of us?
Sure. I want to say, Ming, that it's not possible for me or anybody to bless you, but or any other beings. But that's again something to look into on a. Yeah, I can't bless you. That's my point. But you can bless your own mind by taking a moment to settle down, and let's just appreciate the kindness of all the people we've shared this time with. All your good motivations, your good questions, this deep wish to investigate what love is actually about and how to cultivate it for all beings, and how important and precious that is, especially in a time where there's so many conflicts raging in the world, or there's a lot of confusion about what is beneficial or not beneficial. And so we can visualize all this goodness that we've cultivated together as light at our heart. And we can imagine sending it out into the entire universe. Wishing for all beings to have happiness and its causes. So holding this visualization in mind, we can recite the dedication of merit, which you'll find in the chat as well. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Friends, please all bow to our teacher. Thank you, Venerable, for being here with us today. Friends, this recording will be uploaded onto the Buddhism-dot-net YouTube channel, so subscribe, share for your friends. And if you are inspired to practice dana or generosity towards Venerable Damcho, please donate directly to the Saraswati Abbey, and we'll be sharing the link by chat and by email. So in the next 2 weeks, we'll continue our series on love. And next week, we will have Venerable Gayaso, who is white and male. So I talked to him this morning, and I joked that he's our DEI hire. So, and yes, I have his permission to share this, to repeat this joke to you, so don't worry, we're good. And so with that, my friends, we'll see you all next week. Thank you.